Idaho Matters is brought to you in part by St. Luke's Pharmacy, now offering free home delivery. For daily medications or one-time prescriptions, home delivery is easy to set up. It's convenient and safe. St. Luke's Pharmacy, now delivering to your doorstep. Information on how to get started at stlukesonline.org.
Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. What does life look like after losing your sister? That's something that Poppy Green is still trying to figure out. In Rosie Story's debut novel, Dandelion is Dead, a grief-filled moment leads Poppy to send a message on her late sister's dating app, throwing her into an unexpected journey of love and lies, even new beginnings. Our associate producer, Hannah Gardosky, sat down with Story to talk more about her new book. So let's take a listen.
For people who haven't read the book yet, can you tell us a little bit more about this story and what inspired it?
Of course, yeah. So it's called Dandelion is Dead. At the start of the novel, we meet Poppy, who's 37 years old. She's grieving her beloved, amazing older sister who recently passed away. And in an acute moment of loneliness, she goes into her sister's telephone and she finds herself in her sister's dating app. And before she knows it, she's replying to a message from a handsome stranger. She then decides she'll meet up with him on what would have been Dandelion's 40th birthday, and she thinks, I'll just do it for a crazy dare. It'll be one night, and I'll feel close to my sister again. What she hadn't been anticipating is that there'll be incredible chemistry between her and Jake, and she's desperate to see him again, and he feels the same way. The only problem is she's pretending to be her sister. She also has a boyfriend at home, and it spirals from there. Although it's called Dandelion is Dead, I really think of it as a story about life and two people working out who they are, how to live their lives. And that really was also the inspiration for me as well. This personal authenticity. Who are we? How should we lead our one precious life? And particularly in the moment, kind of coming up to midlife, it's a really juicy moment in life. And I wanted to explore that.
I think one of the things I really loved about this book is it's rooted in sisterhood. And as you just mentioned, even though, Dandelion has passed away, she's so present in this book. And I was wondering, what did you most want to capture about the bond between Poppy and Dandelion and how that bond continues even after loss?
Yeah, well, I really think of them as two halves of a whole. They're a yin and a yang, and they're as different in temperament as they are close. So Dandelion was the older sister, and Poppy kind of grew up in her shadow a little bit. So she is not necessarily as strong or as confident or as forthright as her older sister because she never had to be, because she always had that protection. And I really wanted to ask the question with this book, what happens when you lose someone so powerful and dazzling? And Poppy has to, it's really the kind of way I make Poppy work out who she is when she doesn't have that presence in her life.
I think that's so true because you really feel that. And I think too, when we lose somebody that we love, it can feel like a piece of ourselves disappears with them. And I think that's really something we see Poppy struggle with throughout the novel, like you were just talking about. How did you approach writing that loss of identity and then kind of discovery throughout the book?
I think that the place I get to at the end is that love doesn't end with death. Mm-hmm. And even when these incredible people in our lives are not here anymore, they are, we really carry them with us. And Poppy carries Dandelion. Jake, who's my male protagonist, is carrying the people that he's lost as well. And that's really what I wanted to show, that terrible things happen in life, but then beautiful things happen as well. And it's really a story of hope for me. It's actually Poppy's grief and her loss of her sister that brings her to this great love, to her love story, because she's pretending to be her sister when she meets this man that she ultimately falls for.
Right. And as you just mentioned, Jake is also at a crossroads when he meets Poppy. So can you talk to me a little bit about what drew you to pairing, these two people who are both searching for something together? And I feel like they were searching for something even they couldn't quite name.
Exactly. I think it is that feel. Jake's 40. He's a divorced dad when the novel opens. And both of them are in a position where, when you grow up, you don't necessarily think your life's going to look like that. He didn't think he was going to be a divorced dad at 40 and single and kind of on the apps looking for, someone to have fun with for another night. And Poppy obviously didn't think that she'd be have lost her wonderful sister, and also in a relationship that she's not totally convinced by, but she feels maybe she should continue with it because that's what people do at that age. And yeah, so I think both of them really need to figure out who they are, and in that way they help each other. And I just think they're the perfect match. I adore both of them.
See, I love the twist in this book of, of Jake connecting with Dandelion, who's really Poppy. And I was wondering, how did you navigate the emotional intimacy of that relationship while it's built on a lie? Because I think it could have been so easy to, have a reader really dislike Poppy or really get frustrated with Jake. But these characters are so endearing.
Well, they're both very good people, and they both lie in this book, but they don't set out to lie. So Poppy doesn't set out to deceive. She lies a tiny little bit in a way to feel close to her sister, and then it spirals. It's sort of a progressive thing for both of them. And the lies get bigger and bigger the more time they want to spend with each other. So I think the intention was never bad, but it just goes wrong. And yeah, it keeps going wrong.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about Sam, too, because I think he really represents familiarity and safety for Poppy. What does Poppy and Sam's relationship, do you think, reveal about staying where you're comfortable versus maybe stepping into the unknown? I think so many of us struggle with that.
Oh, yeah, and me as well. I was writing this when I was the same age as Poppy. I was single. And I think in everything that I write, I'm always really trying to figure out, what is love? What does it actually feel like to other people? And I think I've certainly been in relationships where I think, well, this is stable and I'm not that happy, but is it fine? I know society wants me to probably get married and have a baby, but it doesn't feel right, but maybe I should. And that's a bit where Poppy's head is at. She's with this guy, he's stable, he says he loves her, they live together. Should she just stay there? Although she's got this kind of creeping sense of dread.
Love after loss, as we've been talking about, is a big theme in this book. And I was interested in what you were looking to explore about opening your heart again when grief is still very present, because that can be so hard, especially when you're in the thick of it.
It's definitely a tricky one, and I think that grief feels different for everyone, and it flows. Even in your own life, it can feel different day to day. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's cataclysmic. And lust for Poppy is really what flings her out of this terrible state. She basically really fancies Jake when she meets him. And that feeling of lust is the opposite feeling of grief. And I just thought it would be so fun to give her that totally different sensation that she so deserves.
And that's one of the things I think I really loved about this book, because grief is really portrayed, I think, for Poppy as imperfect and non-linear.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we wrap up, I was wondering, after everything that Poppy goes through, what is it that you hope readers maybe take away about resilience or identity, and maybe even ultimately starting over?
I think it's really all about hope for me. There will always be dark days and terrible days in life. And what I want to show with this book is that it flows and the sun comes out again, and you can always hope, and you never know what's around the next corner or what is on your sister's dating app.
That was our Hannah Gardosky talking with Rosie Story about her new novel, Dandelion is Dead, which is out on shelves now. And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Make sure you check out our podcast feed because you can find more episodes of topics that might be interesting to you. And for more local news and headlines, make sure you subscribe to the Connector podcast. And if you haven't yet, could I ask you to leave us a review wherever you listen? We read every single one, and we'd love to hear from you.
You know, every day on Up First, NPR's Golden Globe-nominated morning news podcast, we bring you 3 essential stories. At the heart of each story are questions. What really happened? What really mattered? What happens next? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious and to follow the facts. Follow Up First wherever you get your podcasts and start your day knowing what matters and why.